This is volume 12 of the 15-volume Love and Rockets collection of volume 1 of Love and Rockets. This is Poison River. This story was first serialized in issue 29 and was serialized over a long period of time. And before I did this video, I read a little bit about it, and I can already see things in issue 29 that some things were added here, and apparently Gilbert is known to go through and some of these trades and redraw panels or add some dialogue to help the reader understand. I had read also that there were a lot of complaints from people that were reading this serialized, that it was hard to follow. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know if that's true, but that's what I read. But if it is, if I will tell you, if somebody thought that way, I can understand why. As someone who really likes Gilbert's work, this story started off great, easy to understand. But then it just became this really convoluted mess. Like, you see Maria, who is Luba's mother, kind of, and Luba's dad and their maid kind of like struggle with being kicked out of this rich man's house. And I'm just going to say there are so many. This book takes place between the 50s and I guess 70s. So it shows Luba as a child and has her growing up. But there's all these different weird little subplots, and there's all this political intrigue that, and there's the communists and the leftists and the rightists, and there's all these subplots that after a while, I kind of lost interest. I remember that I told somebody one time that I don't really like most of Tom Scioli's work. And it's because his storytelling is very choppy. It's like, this happens in this panel. Next thing happens this panel. Next thing happens in this panel. But it doesn't flow. It's just like a snapshot. Very choppy. And as much of a fan as I am of Gilbert, this story was like that. Just 2 or 3 panels, 4 panels here, and then all of a sudden switch to some panels here with some people and then other people. I mean, I think Gilbert lost control of this story. There's these weird little side things and people with these weird little kinks. I really just had to force myself to finish reading this. And a lot of the volumes are like 120 pages. This is 175, 180 pages of story and art. It's done well, but usually it's just very choppy. It just seems like Gilbert wanted to cram a lot of stuff in here, and it was too much. And I think a lot like Wigwam Bam, it was just a lot of events happening, but this is like, stepping on the gas all the way and going at 100 miles an hour. And after a while, I stopped caring about the machinations, the political thing, who was killing who was whatever, who had dirt on who, why someone was killed, all this stuff. I just really lost interest. I just finished it to finish it. And then the ending of the story is when Luba first arrives with her mom and her sister, and they first arrive at Palomar. Luba is gets married to her husband when she's 15. I don't understand her motivation. I mean, she's immature, but she does a lot of stuff, and she's just very inconsistent with the stuff she does. I know that she's has a drug problem and then she has a drinking problem because she's unhappy, but you don't know if she's just doing stuff to rebel. You don't know if she's doing stuff because she hates her husband. You don't know if she's doing stuff because she's just wild, or all the three. And I've mentioned this, having things that are not 100% clear is good, because that's what people talk about. When everything is spelled out, there's really nothing to talk about. But having things that are kind of left to the imagination of the reader is good. It makes people talk. I mean, this is why people talk about The Godfather, people talk about Sopranos, people talk about Mad Men, because there's a lot of stuff that isn't spelled out but just implied. and there's no resolution. But there's too much of that in here. Like after a while, like I said, it was just too much. And I've kind of realized that I think Gilbert and Hyman were probably trying to be experimental. Like they didn't want to do the same comics they did in the 80s and in the 90s. I understand that as an artist, you want to grow, you want to do more experimental work, you want to push some boundaries. But it doesn't always mean that it's going to be successful. And I think just trying to add so much here that I think Gilbert and I think Hyman with Wig Wam Bam lost sight of the fact that the connectiveness to the audience is still paramount. And I think after a while, this was just a lot of stuff going on that kind of had no connecting thread, like Wig Wam Bam, but more so. So I'm kind of disappointed. I really loved all the volumes that I've read. But I think Gilbert, tried to do too much, and it got away from him. And I'm hoping that the next volume, he kind of realized that and kind of like took the foot off the gas a little bit and just told a story that can engage the reader. Because I'm just reading events, and it's hard to keep track who. It's also hard to really care about, oh, well, this person has a political thing and they're tied to this communist, and, oh, there's rumors that you're tied to the leftists and that could get you killed and this and that. And I know that stuff goes on, but I just don't think it's done in a way that really kind of sticks. So that's really my review. It's a shame that I can't be super positive about this because I loved the first installment. Although I will tell you, in the first installment, I read this first installment, and there's just such great storytelling, and it flows that I just really loved it. But later on, it just seemed to like spiral out of control, and I think Gilbert lost control of this vehicle, and then just ended it in a way where it's like, okay, well, the end point is that Luba's in Palomar now. That's really it. It's well done. But it's movies, music, comics, any kind of art has to connect. And I think a lot of people will never say anything negative about the Hernandez brothers because they've done so much for comics. But as a reader, I'm just saying, well, like the Death of Speedy, that's one story I always go back to. Or Blood Up Palomar, the Cod Collection. I really love those stories. I thought those stories were really engaging, and I really could get into them, and I really cared. This was just kind of like, okay. And anybody who read this serialized back in the day, I really commend them because I'm reading this as a collection, and I can imagine this being printed every 2 months. Trying to keep everything in your head of what's going on. You had to go back and reread stuff several times just to pick up certain things. I still say that I know people have told me that the best way to read these comics are the way that they were presented in the comics, serialized. I don't buy that. I think collected in this format is the best way. And it's the best way for a lot of reasons, but one of them is to make sense of everything that goes on. So anyway, that's Poison River. Just finished it, and am going to go on to the volume 14. And my goal is to finish the Love and Rockets volume within the next month. And then I'll probably just do like a wrap-up video talking about my thoughts about it overall. Just looking at the work as one big piece. Thanks.